Hello, everybody. Today we're going to focus on how to bring a USGS Historic Topo map into one smart park so that you can map things that you want to find out in the field. I'm looking at a topo map from 1941 around the Fort Loudoun area, and it's really cool because if you zoom in, you can not only see the fort, but you can see old home sites and stuff. And I might be curious, how can I go and find those out in the field? To do so, you want to start over at Google, where we're going to search for something called Living Atlas Historic Topo Maps. ArcGIS Living Atlas is an Esri product similar to ArcGIS Field Maps and Survey 123, so it's a great one that we can use to kind of go between different platforms. In this case, I'm going to zoom on into Burgess Falls and the Window Cliffs area because I'm curious about a spot over there. All you have to do is click on the map and it's going to query or pull up all the different maps that are available for that area. If I look at the 1943 one, these hashed lines are going to tell me the extent of this map. It's pretty big. But if I go to the 1956 one, it's at a 1 to 24,000 scale, which is a little bit smaller, and it's going to have a lot more detail on it. I'm curious about some old home sites along this river and if the river has changed course over time. So what we're doing today involves needing a ArcGIS Creator level license. So there's all these different user types. You don't have to know too much, but they all have different types of permission. We've got enough to go around and we can upgrade you if need be. So shoot us an email if you want to try this out yourself, and we'll make sure you've got a creator level license so that you can play with this on your own. It might involve a little bit more training over time, and we can also just make the file for you so that you can use it and host it on our side. Mobile workers are for editing anything in one smart park out in the field, and viewers are for people who aren't as actively involved in collecting GIS information and just need to view our maps and web apps. So back to the historic topo viewer. There's a really cool option now called Save this topo map to a new ArcGIS Online web map. When I go to sign in, we've transitioned to a new Microsoft sign-on. So we no longer use our first and last name. You're going to use your organization URL, and that's where I'm going to type in TDEC. And then it pulls up this button, which will allow me to use Microsoft single sign-on to get in. Since I'd already signed in today, it brought me right in. I want to rename this web map something that's going to be helpful for me. So I'm going to call this the Window Cliffs Historic Topo example and create web map. It's not just creating the web map here on this page, but it's actually doing it on our TDEC account. When I go to open web map, it's going to bring me to this website, tdec.maps.arcgis.com. So right now we're talking about a web map. So a web map has layers. It's not in one smart park yet. This is a standalone thing. You probably don't spend too much time on the TDEC organization GIS page. But what we're going to do is go on over to Open in Map Viewer, and we're going to be able to see that same extent of this map. I'm going to zoom out just so to double check to see that it covers the area that I'm interested in. It's a small tile right around this area. If I click on the layer on the left side here, you'll notice it goes from blue to bold, and it pulls up a properties pane. You can also click in the top right here for that, and you're going to go down to Information and Save As. This is an imagery layer. It's basically a picture with all that detail on it. And we want to save the picture, not this entire whole web map, just this picture. So I'm going to click Save As, and I'm going to give it a name. So Window Cliffs Historic. Let's give it something a little bit more detailed. What was the year for this? It was the 1956 or 1957 topo map. So I'm going to call it Window Cliffs 1956 topo. And it's going to be saved under my content. So if I go back out, I'm going to go to Content. I don't care about saving this web map necessarily. I'm more concerned with that one image tile. So now I can see that under my content here, I own two different things. I own not only a web map, but also an imagery layer. The imagery layer is the one that's important to us. Now let's head on back over to the hub page you might have to sign in again. It's doing the same thing. It remembers who I was because I already signed into ArcGIS on this computer. And I'm going to go to One Smart Park. You can get to it up here or scroll on down to our applications or come to it any which way. You might already have it bookmarked too. We recently added this new tool called Add Data, and you're going to want to use this. If you get this credential banner, you can just ignore all. What that is saying, hey, you don't have access to a couple of the layers that are included in One Smart Park, and that's on purpose. A couple layers such as rare species and archaeological sites, you have to take the protected data training to get access to, and once you did, this banner would go away. But for now, you can ignore all. You're not going to be missing out on too much. So I went over to Add Data, and it's going to allow me to click to add data here. It already starts to search in my content. I could bring in something from a URL. So if you bring it in like a fire service or something else that you found online, there's ways to do it that way. We're going to have another video that talks all about how to bring different file types from your GPS in a later video. But right now I'm going to go to search and my own content, the stuff that I own. If you switch to my organization, you're going to see like thousands of different items, but we know we own this one. So we're going to bring this in. I click on it and I want to zoom out a little bit to say done. And now it is here in the add data page, but it's still not showing up over at Burgess Falls yet. So there's one last step. I'm going to click these 4 action dots and say add to map. It loves to zoom me all the way out just to make it more fun to zoom back in. And as I get closer, I see the USGS quad has showed up, which is awesome. If I go over to my layers, I can turn it on and off again. So I want to zoom right on in, and I know I'm going to be looking in this area, so I'm going to turn it on, and there it is. You can change the transparency if you want. So I could make it a little bit clearer so it's easy to see. Or you can also reorder this and move it down. So I can move it even to the bottom or to a specific spot. Now it's basically like a base map. It's laying underneath the park boundaries, underneath our landscape features, and that's really cool. I think for my purposes, I want to make it a little bit transparent so it's easier to maneuver around. All right, so we talked about how do we move this data offline into the backcountry on our phones. This map, this image tile that you created isn't going to come with you just because you added it to One Smart Park. We have to create data that you can bring out there. ArcGIS Field Maps does not like to bring images out in the field, so it only can bring data or layers. So we need to add some data to a layer. In this case, what we're going to do is edit. I'm going to create a cultural resource point of interest. So if I type in the word cult, that's always fun. I'm looking at a building site, and I see this spot right here that I'm really curious about. And I'd love to go check it out in the backcountry. Obviously, these georeferenced USGS historic maps might not be perfectly accurate, but it's a good start to get you out there. I'm going to click the point, and I'm going to assign this to Burgess Falls because anything with an asterisk is something that we need. That's a required field. I do know that it is part of a state natural area, so I might as well tag it with that. And I'm going to say home site of interest. And I'll tag it as a home site, and that gives us that nice symbology for it. Public view, definitely no on this. We don't want the public to be trying to go out and find this. This layer is not yet shared publicly, but just for future reference, we want to be organizing things that we would or would not want the public to know about. Same with when we talk about these items with our staff. This is not something that we're talking to the public about. If you knew a historical association, you could give it to that. We don't know if it's visible yet. All of these are optional fields, but I might say the action needed needs investigation. Anytime you actually pick one of these things out, you can turn it into a filter. So I could filter to all the home sites that need investigation or need interpretation, and that's what would show up on the map. I'm going to hit create, and now I've created a point there. That point is going to be available in ArcGIS Field Maps on the One Smart Park map now. And you can use the navigate to feature option if you click on that feature out in the field, you can, I think it's the compass button, and it will take you there, show you how many feet away you are from that point. And once you get out there in the field, you can add more notes to it. You can take some pictures of what you found there. And that's an awesome way to look at an old USGS map, create data from it, and bring that data out in the field.